Lynn, oh my gosh, welcome to the set.
Thank you. It is so great to be here.
I'm really glad
I've been
you're
lost
here.
in the woods. I've been
Lost in the
trying to
woods.
find my way back.
You didn't have a space gate portal to pop through?
No. Well, the thing is, they took me in the Volkswagen.
Yeah, they're funny about that, aren't they?
Yeah.
They were. They were. That was very scary for me when I
On
was.
top of which, we wrecked a nice looking Volkswagen.
I know, it was such a
Yeah.
cool VW.
I know.
Well, listen, you have so much in common with Reggie. It's just
We do.
incredible.
We do.
Yeah, even more so than I do. I mean, it's just shocking. When I was like,
That's impossible.
you know, the whole thing about is 6 degrees of separation.
Yes.
We have like 1 degree of separation on so many things. It's just amazing. I mean, you were raised. Were you born in Long Beach, or were you just raised
No,
there?
I was born in Florida, and I'm the youngest of 3.
Wow.
My parents
I
set
am
off
too. I'm
on
a
a
baby.
trip across country with these 2 children, and then I was born in Florida.
Ah.
And then they made a trip up to my mother's hometown of York, Pennsylvania. My father had spent some time in Long Beach when he was in the service, World War II, and he loved it.
Army
'cause
Air Corps?
He was a pilot, yeah, and he was raised on a ranch, and so he was Mormon. One of 10 children, the only
Wow.
one that left Utah.
Wow,
He was
really?
like the black sheep. He didn't like that religion, and he became a seeker with my
Wow.
mother. And so when I was growing up, we went to a lot of different churches. And
That's
I
amazing.
had my mantra from Maharishi Mahashogi by the time I was 14.
Wow.
Est in Scientology.
Yeah.
But we landed in Long Beach, and they rented a place, and then this house where the studio that we recorded the first Phantasm soundtrack is on that hill on Atlantic and Delama. Because you're from Long Beach.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
born and
Yeah.
raised.
Born and
You too?
raised.
He was born and raised, and I moved to Long Beach in '95.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he stayed in his parents' house until we had to sell it in 2003, and we moved to Crestline in our little cabin up
How
in
beautiful.
2003. It was the first house that we found. Reggie goes, "How will we find a house?" And I went, "We won't. It'll find us."
It'll
and
find
it did.
us,
It was the
right.
very first house we saw.
We used to go there when I was kids. My girlfriend's family always went. My best girlfriend, Terry. And we would fish and just have so much fun there. And
Was
I have
Big
good
Bear, Lake
memories.
Gregory, or Lake
It was
Arrowhead?
they always went to Lake Gregory, but my family
Yes.
would go to Big Bear. And,
Yeah.
and remember Santa's Village was open. I think
Yes.
it's back open
It
again.
is. It is.
Yeah.
They call it Sky Park now. You
Yes.
should come up. They have so many fun things. They have beautiful. Right now, they've got a series of concerts going. So,
Very good.
so. Well, listen. I mean, we're kind of. You know, we've talked to Reggie before about the neighborhoods that he grew up in. It was very kind of Leave It to Beaver-esque, you know, because it was such a beautiful. His little elementary school was right down the street from his house. He went to Clara Barton Elementary, isn't that
Clara
right?
Barton.
I went to
Yeah.
Clara Barton.
You went to Clara Barton?
Yes, I was looking
Shut
on
the front
way.
door.
Oh.
That's amazing. And my mother was a teacher there.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
Clara Barton.
Okay, and he went to Poly High.
And I went the other way, Jordan.
Jordan.
I
Yeah,
could have gone
yeah.
either way, but both my brother and sister went to Jordan.
Yeah. A lot of my we
Yeah.
kind of split like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
of
we
course.
lived right across from Sheer Park. So
Right.
they would always have
Right.
concerts.
So did you go to Hughes Junior High
Yes,
School?
yes.
I did too.
Oh my gosh.
How about that? Wow.
See what I mean?
That's amazing.
That is
That's
amazing.
It
Yeah.
only took us 31 years to get around to,
Well,
or 40
because
years to
He
get
knew-
around
My
to.
mother knew him before I knew him,
Ah,
and she probably told him about our recording
Yeah.
studio because
yes, because he found out about I guess Paul Ratajak, and so that's his memory of going to
Ratajak.
y'all's
Uh-huh.
the studio in the garage. You know,
Yeah.
that gives new meaning to garage band. Before they were garage bands,
Yeah,
right?
and it's funny
Like,
because it started out as just I was my bedroom. My dad was one of those guys that could build anything, and so that
Right.
original house was 2 bedrooms, 1 bath,
Wow.
and with just a big grassy yard. It was an unusual shaped piece of property, bigger
Uh-huh.
than most, because we were up on the
On a
corner.
corner.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of a triangular kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
thing. And we had shuffleboard. He put a wall in between because of the riots that were
Oh,
happening in
Oh, yeah.
Compton.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
So between the very backyard and our pool area, which we all he wanted to make sure that his children knew how to work because he was from a ranch,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So we were out building fences and digging pools and, oh my
Wow.
gosh, planting gardens. And
Wow, goodness.
we had quite a menagerie there. And then when it came time, both my brother and sister had moved out, and I had a band, and Paul,
That was the
was-
Susie band? Or
Sassy Smash.
Sassy Smash.
But we were first bit of honey because we had to make money. So, and we were underage. Well, first we were soda pop singers. That's when we were in high school.
Yeah,
Then we were bit of honey. I would go as honey.
Mhm.
I think people called me honey. And we did whatever people requested. If we didn't know it, we'd say, come back next week.
Next
and
week
we'll
and
know
we'll know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like In the Shade of the Old Apple Tree.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
Oh,
Dean
wow.
Martin's Everybody Loves Somebody Sometime.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it all just sort of, we got recording equipment from the money that we had earned. And one thing, we actually bought Les Paul's old 4-track recorder.
Wow.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Those are the big 2-inch
Yes.
tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul was very proud of that. And everything was supposed to be for our band. But,
Yeah.
But then, of course,
But
we got
it,
so
it progressed.
we got so in
And now
debt.
Paul has
we had to
Mercury
run
Studios, right?
Mercury Sound. in
Mercury
Glendale.
Sound, sorry.
He started with Ground Control in
Yes,
Santa
I remember
Monica,
that.
and then Mercury Sound. And it's funny because my husband's also an actor, writer, producer. We have our Eastman-Rossi production
Mm-hmm.
company together. And he had done a movie, and I had no idea. I'd lost track of Paul by then. And so I went to the screening of the film, and I'm walking down the aisle to my seat, and I run into this face that is so familiar, because we were together 7 years building this
Wow.
band and this business.
Wow.
And it was Paul. And I remember looking at him going, oh my gosh, he looks so old. And then in the back of my mind, I'm going, oh my gosh, he's thinking the same thing about me. Oh my gosh, she looks so old. Because we were kids together.
Yeah,
we grew
sure.
up
Oh,
together,
yeah,
and
sure.
We built this empire.
Sure.
And it was, but he had done the soundtrack for my husband's movie.
Yeah.
So it was great to see him again. And so he recorded, later on, I did a thing called the Blues Mothers. We were mothers by day, blues mothers by night.
Ah,
We did a little
that's-
sizzle reel.
that's
and
great.
We're trying to get a TV show going. And now I've changed hats. I'm a producer, writer, director.
Well, you've progressed. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
natural progression,
Yeah,
right?
and we have a show
Well, I
called
was
Hotel
just-
Impossible.
I was only, I was into music and I was into acting.
Yes,
And then I met Gigi.
right.
And all of a sudden things just went bam, you know?
Bet.
And
Well, we
all-
talked about when we met. We shook hands, and you know, I felt like someone reached in and grabbed my soul, and he thought I had a big stick up my butt, and it was because back in the '90s, women in business, we had a certain persona we had to portray in order to have that strong, authoritarian thing for people to take us
Yes.
seriously, and. But I had to put up a facade, and he was able to teach me to be able to drop that facade, that it was okay. And then I taught him it's not okay when people have you perform and you don't get paid. So we've had this partnership ever since. So it was great.
And what year was that?
1994 we met, and then
94, okay.
95. By January of '95, we were incorporated.
Oh, good.
So now we're multimillionaires because of Gigi.
Now I always say that we had a choice between fame and fortune. We took fame.
You're a lot like me in that with Paul, we created a business together.
Right.
And now with my husband Leo, we created a business together.
Yeah.
If I'm a partner with somebody, I'm a partner.
You're a
with somebody.
partner. That's right.
And
It's
we
a
work hard.
partnerships in marriage, or partnerships in business are the same as a marriage.
Yes,
I mean,
and I
you're
think that
married, and,
we have
and you
strengths.
grieve when they break up.
Yes, of course you do.
Yeah. So
And women have different strengths than men have.
We do.
And if you think about it in like caveman days, where
Yes.
the men would go out,
The
providers, they'd
hunter-gatherers.
be hunters and protectors,
Right.
and the women would be around the fire, making the home and solving the problems.
Right.
Like where are we going to move next, and
Yeah.
things or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And because women, I think our intuition is very, very keen. And
Yes.
in
Yes.
most cases, if you're tuned
Well, there's
to
a lot of my ancestors, that are native ancestors, that their particular nations, the women fought right alongside the men.
Mm.
And there were some that went on to be tribal elders and tribal chiefs and like
Wasn't there a movie about women ruling the world? Do you remember that movie? I mean, it was
That would be wonderful.
women. It's an old movie, and
Yeah.
women were in charge. It was a matriarchal society,
Mhm.
and the men were trying to take over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find it very interesting how people react to like Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
which was my moniker in the Army, by the way. And the Amazon concept. Reggie always called me his Amazon, because
Yeah.
I'm 5'9", barefooted, and then I put my heels on. I'm like 6'1", and he always revels in whenever we are together and we're on that red carpet, and I want to kind of duck out, and he's like, no, I want you to stand right next to me, even though you're so tall. So
I
I
think
take
we
my
have
shoes
to
off.
realize that we're not in competition,
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
We need each other.
Right.
Women
Absolutely.
Need each other.
That's the strongest
I don't
or
like
the
what's
hardest thing
happening
to
with
get them
the
to
Me Too.
understand.
I don't like what's happening with the Me Too movement in that it's causing, men to be resentful and rightly so in some cases. But I think that what the message is, we need to move forward now. We need to move forward and recognize that we need each other.
For some of them, I think they just needed
Absolutely.
acknowledgement,
Absolutely.
to acknowledge that yes, this happened, and validate, that happened.
Yeah.
And okay, so now what?
But the worst things have happened to women. I mean, there's been a lot worse things. that have
Well,
happened to women.
I'm a product
slave-
of the Me Too as well, and unfortunately, some of mine happened in the Army, and some happened in the industry, some happened outside the industry. It's just
I honestly haven't spoken to any woman that hasn't in some way.
Reggie said that too. He said
And
he never had a woman in his life that hadn't had something.
And I had this conversation with my husband recently because I was going over the questions with him, and he was going, well, when is it no, and when is it like, oh, come on, like the guy going, oh, come on, and
No
I was
means
going, no. Well, I said, if the girl says no, it's no,
Right.
and then just can't.
Well, nobody's
The
sat
rape
down and
happens
talked to
when
them.
the woman's saying no, and then the man is.
I don't
just
think. I think a lot of
overpowering
men
her.
that they want to do the right thing, they just haven't been taught. And so I think
control their
they were brought up maybe with a particular influence in their life and like
Right.
that, or someone just didn't come out and say no means no. You can't do that.
And I was
You
gonna.
can't
yeah, I
just
was-
slap a girl on her ass as she walks by, because that's touching,
I was-
unwanted touching.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was part of the culture, at various times, that
Right.
men, would be so aggressive with women, like
Yeah.
women were women, and
Yeah.
men, hey, come with me, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And
When men
and-
are men and sheep are scared.
I love Kate Hepburn's quote about, I never realized that women were supposed to be the inferior sex. She didn't,
It just
went-
never occurred to her.
yeah,
And that's the way I was raised. I was raised that I could do anything a man could do. And I
Sure.
can remember being in business, like with Paul, and we'd be discussing with a business proposition or something.
And they'd
and
address
they'd always
Paul.
be looking at him like,
Yeah.
well,
I still get that.
yeah, it's still there, absolutely. I'm
or-
very, I'm
or-
very
Yeah.
often the only woman in the room, and
Or
Yeah.
if there's a contract issue, I bring forward, that's something that I've discussed with Reggie. Reggie doesn't like the particular issue. I'll bring it forward. All of a sudden, it's she's just being a bitch. It's like, no,
Right.
it's not. Who do you think
know.
I take my directions from?
know.
I still represent my client. My client just happens to be married to me, but he's my client. And my client says he doesn't want to do this.
well, I call it the boys' club, and boys stick
Yeah.
together.
Mhm.
They'll see a strong woman and they'll ignore her.
Yeah.
Or they'll, so
Ignore
I-
her, put her in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just have to work against that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always say, it's no longer that we demand a place at the table. You have to bring your own damn chair, So, which we've done many times, and they've underestimated. We always say that one banister with one end is one that you slide down. The banister with two ends is a power force,
There you go.
And we definitely have seen some amazing things where they really underestimated the two of us together, and they go after me, and it's really Rich they need to worry
Right.
about.
That's
And
good.
so, but we're an excellent team together.
I still think you can get more with honey, than as women.
Right.
I think we understand what's going on, and we can use our other tactics to get through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, very often I have better luck with just sitting down and looking somebody in the eye and telling, well, here's really what's happening. Here's what the truth is.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Well, you did 5 years with Lee Strasberg.
Yes, I did.
What was that like?
It's funny because Farrah Fawcett was the generation before me.
Right.
And I saw how she was kind of mocked, like she was a beautiful girl, but she couldn't act.
Right.
So I was there because I wanted to make sure that I was a fine actress. So it was almost like therapy for me too, because it's the method. So what you're learning about is what inside of you can you use when you need to cry. And very often it's not even what your character's crying about.
Right.
So you have to learn how to do that. All the tools that they give you. So it was tools like substitution. If I'm supposed to be in love with somebody and there's absolutely no chemistry whatsoever, they have a tool called substitution, where you find something about them that makes you see that person that you love.
Yeah.
All those.
Oh, I think that's a very important part of acting.
Right.
You have
you got to make it real.
You got to make it real. I mean, if it's not real.
Lee Strasberg had an argument with Stella Adler because they came up as acting teachers together, and Stella believed that, come on, actors can pretend. They don't have to suffer.
Not the same.
And Lee would say, no, you've got to find it. You've got to find it within yourself. You have to suffer like your character suffers. And they were both right.
Boris Karloff is a fine example. I mean, in order for him to do Frankenstein, he decided that he needed to get that walk down right, and so he stilted he wore braces on his legs, and he actually almost either did or almost broke his bones or something because he fell. But he got right back up, and he used that, and so I mean that's kind of
another great thing is
use it.
You got to start where you're at.
Yeah.
Or whatever's going on with you now, you got to find a way to turn it into where you want to go with it, and also you have to bring a life into the scene with you. So the important part is what happens before the scene.
Right.
So that because that colors
preamble.
That colors your whole experience.
Sure.
I remember a situation. I just left my mind now. Let's see, I was going to tell you about something. Oh well, I'll think of it.
That's okay.
Probably.
What do you feel that was never taught at university, but they should have?
Oh. Well, okay. This is another thing from Lee Strasberg was very important to relax. The tension is a block to your emotions. That's true in learning environments too.
It is.
So for me, because I was meditating at 14, I always thought that everyone should learn how to meditate. That if you start your day with a meditation practice, it colors the entire day. And so I know that Maharishi actually has a university, I think it's in Illinois or somewhere.
So I've heard.
Yeah. And that's what they do.
Yes.
And they have very high scores in the results that they get from studying, because you can imagine you got to stop the chatter.
You're unlocking.
You've got to be like a sponge and absorb things, and so.
And have free flowing thought as well.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer in that. So yeah, definitely.
Good.
Now, how did your audition for Sally with Don Coscarelli? How did that go?
I was in a bit of a different situation because I met him when he came to look at the studio, and then he just asked if I wanted to be in this film. It was I didn't audition.
You just liked to look?
Evidently. I was Miss Long Beach, Miss Welcome to Long Beach in 1976. So it was the bicentennial. So I think this was 1977 when we started
filming.
Right.
So it was right in that area. So I guess he thought it might be good for the film if it's funny because Miss Long Beach is actually Miss Welcome to Long Beach. And my modeling teacher, I was modeling since I was 8. There was, remember Vogue Agency in Atlantic? Elda Berry ran it. And so my mother, I was tall, thin child, so my mother took me to these modeling classes. And every week she would pick a model of the month, and they would get to model at Welsh's. Do you remember Welsh's?
Welsh's.
That restaurant.
The restaurant,
yes.
sure.
They had That used to be a big thing back in the,
Oh, yeah, it
the
was.
60s. They
Well, and you remember Grissinger's?
I don't remember.
Did you ever go?
No.
Oh, wow, that was like Bixby Knolls area.
That's where I grew up.
It was like Atlantic and
They must have
Carson.
disappeared by the time I got.
Maybe so, but it was a drive-in, you know,
drive-in.
and it was where everybody hung
Was it on
out.
Atlantic?
Yeah, it was on Atlantic.
Wasn't
Yeah,
when I came
yeah.
of age.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
As a producer director, is there a certain chemistry or comfort level that comes with working with the same crew? Do you do that, or do you like fresh
We
crews
do.
each time?
Yeah, well, depending if we're on location, sometimes we're into going to states that offer rebates, because
Sure.
you get more for
Incentives.
your money.
Yeah.
Like some of the states you get 30%. Every dollar you spend, you get 30% back for
Mhm.
tax rebates. So part of that is spending money in that state.
Sure.
But there's always the key people that you want to work with, that you want to bring along with you, and what it is trust. It's just knowing that they know their shit, and that you can trust them. They're going to get it done.
It is.
But for
You're not the first one to say that,
yeah,
by the way.
for newbies, it's about attitude. It's about a good, positive attitude, because we also hire a lot of students, as
Yeah.
interns and gophers
Sure.
and things, and you can always tell the ones that are gonna work out.
They have it.
They have it, and it's an attitude. I think it's just
It is.
yeah, they're willing to do whatever that is needed. They think of the project as being, the number one thing, not
Right.
not them.
They,
I
yep.
think, put
They
the
see the whole
project first.
picture.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, I love the intern thing. That's
yeah, it's
that's
so beneficial
fantastic.
for everybody.
Oh yeah, you get some young people that they've been dying to be a part of the business, and you just start them off. Run over here, go get that, that, da da da, and while you're saying that, you're actually saying, something like, get that
Stinger. Or
stinger. Yeah, like a stinger. Yeah. Well,
You're
what's a
educating.
Oh, I
stinger?
remembered the story. I
It's
wanted to tell
it's
you
that wire
guys.
over there.
I remembered the story I
What
wanted
was
to
it?
tell you. This was on the set of Project X with Matthew Broderick and Helen Hunt,
Wow.
and I played Sergeant Huntley. And that was the movie about the chimpanzees that they were training to fly
Right.
these fighter jets,
Right.
So I was on this top secret project, and Jonathan Kaplan directed. And evidently, they had all of these, simulated jets, and the chimpanzees were chained up to them, while
Yeah.
we were in rehearsal. They were all in chains.
Yeah.
But every time I would walk by, this was the largest chimpanzee. You think of chimpanzees as being little.
As being
Yeah.
a little thing, yeah.
This was an old chimpanzee that had been castrated by a woman that looked like me.
Wow.
So every time I walked by, he was
He thought it was you.
freaking out.
Oh.
And he was in
Yeah.
chains, so during rehearsal it was okay. And then
Sure.
Jonathan said, "We're going to unchain him because we're going to shoot now. But his trainer will be right next to him. So don't worry."
Which is the first thing you do when
And
someone
you see-
says something like that.
Chimpanzees are 10 times stronger than humans. They
Yes.
can rip your arm off,
Yes. Or your face.
or your face off, but they don't know it. And
Right.
in fact, the lead chimpanzee was so cute. His name was Virgil, and I fell in love with him. And he was a little
Aw.
chimpanzee. And I said to the trainer, I said, "How did you get him to do all these things?" Because he seemed like he was just brilliant. And the trainer said, "Well, he likes plums. He'll do anything for a plum." He says, "And when you first take on a chimpanzee to train, you have to beat the shit out of them. And if you
Oh my
don't do it
God.
right the first time, you have to do it again.
Oh.
Because for them, it's the law of the jungle.
Right.
They're stronger than you are, but if they have any inkling
that
you're
they're stronger
weak,
than you. Yeah.
it's over.
Yeah, because it's a pecking order within
Yeah.
It's
their
over.
group. Yeah.
But I'm here today, so you know that I survived that scary thing. But that was very, very frightening.
Oh, I bet.
And yeah, his trainer was. He was afraid of his trainer. So
Wow.
Oh,
he was
okay.
probably, which means he was probably.
The things we do for art.
Yes, we risk our lives.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
And I have never figured out who art is.
It's the guy hanging on the
Oh,
wall.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wait, you were art for a while too. You
I
in Phantasm 3 and Pickups in 4. You were hanging on the wall, so you were art.
No, that's true. That's true. I was
This is
hanging.
so remarkable because I'm in the original Phantasm, and I haven't seen any other ones. And you have been on this entire odyssey with all
Right.
of these 4 other Phantasms.
Yes.
Wow.
I know.
Yep.
Wow. So this
You
has been
know,
your
I'm-
life now for
Yes.
I
40
yeah.
years.
40 years.
Mhm.
Thank God you have Gigi.
Hallelujah,
Do you guys like
sister.
Crestline?
Oh yeah, we love Chris.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. We just had our annual July 4th celebrations up there,
Nice.
which last all weekend.
Oh,
you know,
nice.
so yeah.
We've been looking in Arrowhead for something to an escape, but
Yeah.
now we're looking at Oregon because I'm really liking the cooler weather.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
the
nice.
rain. Yeah, I used to think it would
Yeah.
be too rainy for me, but I'm changing. I think I like rain.
Changing is good.
And I think you have to. My ideal thing is to have 2 homes where you can
Sure.
go back and forth.
Sure.
'Cause I don't think we'll ever give up LA.
Now,
we need
what
to be here.
what is the one thing about your character Sally that nobody knows?
Sally has something going on with Cody
Ah.
that her sister doesn't know about.
Wow.
Ah.
And that, I think, is in the 3-hour version
Mhm.
where I show up in a, Don had me wear this little negligee thing, and Cody comes
Comes a calling.
comes a calling, and we have this, like, scene together.
Ah.
Ooh.
I know, but that wasn't part of the main storyline, so that didn't make the final cut. Is the final cut 88 minutes? Is that true?
Yes.
88
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. The original was 3 hours.
Right.
And change.
I'm probably in that one. Yeah.
So there's somewhere in Don's vaults, there's a
Yes.
scene of sexy Sally.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, and that's kind of a good thing for people that are just, you know, learning about making film to know.
Yes.
Shoot way more than you think you might need, you know,
Right.
and make sure you get the scene the way you want it.
And then you can always come back and play
Yeah.
with it too.
And you remember with Don, it was always that way.
He was very creative. He is
Yeah.
very creative.
Let's
Yes.
go again, guys. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was it.
yeah.
And you were happy to
He shoots 5 to 1. 5 size shoots it 5 times to get one good shot.
Yeah.
5 to 1,
Even if
and
it's
then
the first time.
yeah, and then you
That's the way I like to work too, because and I just like the actors to keep going. If they
Yeah.
mess up, just keep going. That's the
and
way
he
De
was
Niro
always
works,
interested
too.
in hearing your ideas. You know, okay,
Right. I love
where do you
that.
think we should go with this?
Yeah.
Don would say, you know,
Yeah.
and you'd have these great artistic conversations with him about what we were all doing. And
Fantastic.
he's a terrific director. He
Yeah.
really is.
Now my scenes were mainly with Michael Baldwin because I was his babysitter.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Susie, who I haven't seen in 40 years. The girl that plays Susie.
Mhm.
Yeah. But great memories and mostly filmed in Long Beach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Sunnyside?
That's what. Yeah. Don was from Long Beach. I was from Long
I know, I remember
Beach.
Shirley, his mother.
Yeah,
always
yeah,
said all the
Shirley
time she
was
like,
She was a force.
Fantastic.
She was. We had some great
Fantastic.
conversations. She told me that Thursday was her beauty day,
Mm.
where she would just not see anybody. She would have her
Yeah.
nails done, facials. She would just take care of everything and then be ready for the rest of the week. And that was her ritual. And I was, you know,
Wow.
young. I was 21 or something,
Mhm.
and I was because she looks great. I was going,
Right.
wow, well, maybe that's something to think about in the future. That you need that day, that
You
beauty
need that
day.
day. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Who is the most influential females in film, TV, or theater that means something to you?
Yeah. Well, I think the best roles were definitely in the 30s and 40s for women.
Yeah.
Wow, what happened? And those were many written by men. There were some great women writers back
Uh-huh.
then
Mhm.
in the days, but it just seemed like there was more of a teamwork between men and women than
Mhm.
later on. So you know, it would be Rita Hayworth, Katharine Hepburn. I mean, I grew up just loving Doris Day. I think I watched Calamity Jane. It was on that matinee movie
Uh-huh.
every day for a week, and I learned all the songs.
Oh wow.
The hills are. Oh no, that's the sound of music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
What,
yeah.
what is your, do you have a secret weapon for when you're performing, when you're not quite up to 100%?
Oh, that's the breath of fire. Yeah. The breath of fire is a yoga technique which stimulates your adrenal system and your immune system. So it just gets things moving. Have you ever noticed if you have a headache and you're laying, like say you wake up with
Yeah,
a
I have
headache.
migraines.
Well, when you get up and move around, or if you do the breath of fire, it just gets things moving, and my headache goes away, or whatever's going on tends to go away. So
That's it.
the breath
Yeah.
of fire is like this. It's a pumping of the stomach. And you're inhaling equal amounts in and out. And you do that for 3 minutes,
Wow.
and
Wow.
you're a new person. Your whole body is oxygenated.
We'll have to try that one.
Yeah.
Remember that, you guys, everybody
That's a
watching.
Kundalini,
Yeah.
Kundalini yoga trick.
So,
Yeah, we'll teach you a little therapy while we're sitting here.
Why not? These are tricks,
Yeah.
tools.
back when they shot Phantasm in the 70s, there was a standing rule about serious actors didn't do nudity. In your opinion, has that changed over the years?
I think it has. Because serious actors now are superstars and they don't have to do nudity, right? Which is what you're saying. But I think if you're coming up and if you're the newbie and there's a role that has some nudity, you could lose that role if you don't do the nudity. So, you have to really decide. And I think it's not looked at as poorly as it was back in the day. I think people, I don't know, we're more European almost these days. We're getting more used to it.
We're
And I
getting
think in a way that's healthy, because I know when I go to Europe, it's no big deal.
Right.
I mean, you come here and it almost causes a perversion.
Yes.
If you keep the female or the male body secret.
Yeah. My mother used to say, nothing good comes of secrets, and yet my whole family has nothing but secrets. But
How ironic.
if there was any advice that you wanted to give to the next generation of filmmakers, actors, or models, what would it be?
Be true to yourself, honest to God. Don't do
Yeah.
anything that doesn't feel right. Be bold, be brave. One of the quotes, I love quotes, I grew up with quotes because my mother was big into quotes, is whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And
Wow.
that's Goethe. Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Just an aside, what were you doing during the Northridge earthquake?
Sleeping.
Oh my goodness.
Mother of two. The kids are upstairs. My husband and I are downstairs. And it starts, we were in Sherman Oaks. It starts not that gentle roll that we felt
Right.
last week. This was jerking. So I'm trying to get out of bed to get to the kids, and I'm thrown back. I can't get out of bed. It just keeps throwing me back. It was almost humorous.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
almost
That
humorous. I
happened the same way to me.
Yeah.
I was in NoHo
Yeah.
on the third floor of a three-story.
Oh, the third floor.
There's a lot of kumbaya action going on.
We lived in a house, but down the end of our block, there were apartment buildings that were just pancaked down, and they were underground parking. So any car that was down underneath there was a pancake.
gone.
The irony is the attorney I worked for at the time, one of our clients was in that building, and she survived, but she was pretty
We had
a little
a
traumatized.
vintage baby blue Mercedes, and sitting in our driveway, and our chimney fell.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
and
gosh.
It went like this,
Oh my gosh.
and my entire kitchen was on the floor.
Oh,
Yeah.
Everything was just on
wow.
the floor, and I'm running around in bare feet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And my daughter had tried to get to her sister's room, the younger one, and meanwhile she was dodging bookcases falling over, and luckily they were fine. But our neighborhood came together. Schools were closed for 2 weeks, and they made go-karts together, and it was. I had just made 2 lasagnas. We had eaten one, and the other one was in the freezer. We had no electricity, no gas. So I brought the lasagna out, and my friend next door neighbor had a barbecue. So we actually put this frozen lasagna on the barbecue and We lived in a cul-de-sac, so we
Yeah.
shared it with the entire
Aw.
cul-de-sac. And everybody
Wow.
was bringing food out.
Sure, whatever you had to.
Whatever you had.
Yeah.
That
Um,
was really interesting. That
Yes.
was, wow.
What projects are you working on right now?
Well, we just had the Gotti project released. That was an 8-year thing. That was starring John Travolta,
That's
Kelly Preston.
very impressive.
Yes. And, it
We-
started out with a
Reggie
7.
and I
wish.
watched it religiously.
Oh, good. I wish it would have happened sooner, because
Yeah.
8 years ago there was a $70 million budget attached,
Right.
with Barry Levinson directing.
Wow.
John Travolta has been the through line, and Al Pacino and Anthony Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
James Toback was going to do the rewrite of
Wow.
the script.
Too bad they couldn't get any names. You know?
I know.
Wow.
But they wanted to make it a Godfather movie.
Mm.
Now, John Gotti had passed away in prison,
Sure.
Yeah.
and his son was in charge.
Yeah.
And his son wanted it to be a redemption movie,
Ah.
because he
Sure.
Okay.
went to military school and then wanted to go to West Point, but
Mhm.
because his father was this
Was who he was,
notorious
right.
Don, he wasn't allowed to go.
Wow.
They didn't accept him. So he ended up getting into the mob,
Wow.
and he
Wow.
ended up spending 9 years in prison. So he had children all different ages, because he'd get out and his wife would get pregnant, and then he'd have to go back in for a couple years, and then he'd get out and then his wife would get pregnant. So they have like 4 children that are just all spaced out, all these years. But we were so happy Lionsgate came in and picked it up, and John Travolta and Kelly and their daughter Blue is in it as well. Kevin Connolly directed it.
Wow.
He's the actor,
Mm-hmm.
and he
Pretty
had-
amazing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that we didn't have the budget that we had. They
Yeah.
actually had to cut scenes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had to kind of make sense of the movie.
Uh-huh.
So then we hired a fixer,
Yeah.
and then we had an angel come in with a couple $1 million
Holy cow.
who believed in it, and we were able to take it to the Cannes Film Festival, and it is what it is today. But they also made a deal with Pitbull to do the music,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been criticized for that because and I kind of agree, it should have been period music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird that they put Pitbull.
We've had a couple of films that great films, but then they put this weird music at the end, and it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, but we have 3 other films that were in development and that we've written, and one is about Joey Giardello, the boxer, and then we have another one that's kind of a ice skating mafia movie. It's a real story of a father who's in the mob, but his son is like the most brilliant ice skater ever,
Wow.
and how it's kind of like
Influences.
Gotti.
Yeah.
He can't go on with his career because his
Yeah.
father
Mm.
is a criminal. But anyway,
Sins of the
it's
Father.
a father-daughter. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sins of the Father.
Wow.
And do
We
you?
also have Hotel Impossible, which is coming back in reruns now. But that,
Right.
that was our show that we pitched and developed for the Travel Channel. Hotel
Wow.
Impossible. You guys probably don't want. It's a
No, I've seen it a couple of times.
oh good with
Yeah.
Anthony Melchiori. Yeah.
What's the? Do you think that there's a bias in the market against female producers and directors when competing for funding or distribution?
I think it depending. Yeah. I mean, I like to work with women. There's no problem there. And there are very enlightened men out there. There are, and
Like
they're
Reggie,
trying.
Don.
They're
Yeah.
trying really hard.
Coscarelli.
There are warriors, our champions, but there's still that element out there.
Yeah.
and they're in power, but we're seeing a lot of them get knocked down, aren't we?
It is the
Women
time.
coming out of the woodwork.
Oh, yeah.
Les Moonves, that was
Oh,
a
yeah.
shocker.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I
It
guess-
really
yeah,
is.
Yeah.
Women are, doing what they're supposed to be, what they were born to do.
Right.
Hey, I'm talented too. That's what they're
Yeah,
saying.
thank you. Yes.
Absolutely. We're all human beings, right?
Right.
One just happens to be female, one happens to be male.
We all have.
But
gifts.
we all have the same talents.
Right.
We have singers, actors,
I know.
name it,
I know.
artists.
And a lot of it starts in the home, depending
Yeah.
on, a lot of it depends on the father with a
Mhm.
female, with a young girl. And I fortunately had a father that was like
You're right.
supportive.
It's pretty much all about upbringing, and
Yeah.
and what was like kind of cool about the '60s is that when all those kids grew up and became fathers and wanted to give their sons and daughters, freedom, the freedom to think and be who they're supposed to be,
Right.
and yeah, I just thought that was awesome, that whole movement, you know, and then it you know, then turned into the Me Too, whatever, you know,
Right.
feminism,
Yep.
you know. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
We're
thank
here.
you so much for
I know. If you put on my tombstone, she was a survivor.
yeah.
I'll be happy because I've been in this business since I was 8 years old,
Mhm.
basically, and wearing different
Yeah.
hats, right?
Yep.
Which
Yep.
we all have to. You've
Yep.
only worn a couple because you.
Yeah. No, well, you know, a couple.
Well, let's see.
Musician,
actor,
actor.
musician, director, producer, co-producer, UPM special effects.
Oh, you've worn a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, when I ran into
composer.
Gigi, and you know, she suggested
to
this
work.
production company. Yeah. She suggested this production company. You know, we talked it over, and I just went, yeah, I can dig that. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I've been in front of the camera so much. Let me see what it's like to do other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, to make
I
the
like
thing
being
happen.
in charge. I like being able to give people jobs instead of the one coming for
Oh,
the
sure.
Exactly.
job.
Oh,
That's,
sure.
That's what I really love about
Yeah.
it.
Terrific.
That's-
Well, thank you so much
You're
for doing this for us. This
welcome.
is so important that you
Oh.
were available for us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm a team player, and Phantasm was my very first feature film, so it has a special place in my heart for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well,
Really.
thank you
Great
so
seeing
much.
you. Great seeing you.